Hi, this is Pamela Groppe Art, and today we are going to work on this Happy Fall sign, and we're going to paint these pumpkins in some little bit different colors, and you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So let me get my surface and we will show you how it's done. So here is a piece of board. It's a scrap piece from an old sign I had, and I want to use it for this sign. So what I did was I base coated with a color. I just picked one I had plenty of, say butter pecan, or like something dark enough to cover this, the darker colors, and that would even it out. And then, so this is that undercolor, or I just brushed it on to cover the underneath painting. If this was raw, I would still do an undercoat, because raw wood will soak up the paint, unless you're wanting to paint on a stained wood surface. So I'm going to start with getting two colors on my painting palette. This is my Richardson Gray Matters paper palette. It's a wax coating. I really like it. This size, I also like the bigger size, because I can really get in and mix some paints on it. So I'm going to go with Boulder, because I have a lot of this, or like Barnwood. They're kind of a gray color. And I'm going to get it on my palette. Now to cover, I know I'm going to need plenty. I make sure it's mixed well. If I'm going to be just dumping it out, I open the bottle and I just mix it up. So I'm going to put my two colors on my palette. This is Boulder. It's a gray color, a neutral gray. And I'm going to get plenty on there. And I'm going to mix it with a bit of white, because I want it on the lighter side. So I'm going to put, this is titanium white. I don't use a lot of titanium white in my painting. I usually use wicker white. So the titanium white I use for like mixing for backgrounds, etc. This is just a wood skewer. It comes in handy to mix the paints in the bottle. I have read or heard that there is some kind of a paint mixer that really helps if they start to separate. So I'm going to take my 2-inch brush. This one's about ready to be retired. I need to get me some more, but this is my 2-inch low Cornell white nylon brush. And I just dampen it. I dip it in my caddy, my water caddy that I rinse my brushes in, and then I just push it or press it down gently on a paper towel to kind of get the excess out. And then I'm just going to work into the two paints. I'm not worried about much of anything. I'm just getting that thing loaded. And then I'm going to put my palette to the side, and I'm just going to come in here and start painting it on. If it's too light, you come back with a little bit more gray on your brush and blend it through. I like the striations for interest in the background rather than a solid. You can certainly go for a solid if you like. This is your painting. Do what you like. But I like the variations in color. So it's going to take a lot of paint, so you may have to go back and put more out on the palette. You see how some of these little wads get in here? Was dry in the bottle. So sometimes you'll get those. Just pick them up with the edge of your paintbrush. I have to get more paint on my palette because now I'm already out. So I will be right back. Now I'm back with more of the Boulder on my palette, and I'm going to continue covering this until I like how it looks all the way across. And remember, acrylics typically dry a little bit darker than you put with the color they are when you first putting them on. So keep that in mind. If you want it to be lighter, it should look just a little bit lighter as you're finishing and then when it's dry, it'll probably be the right tone. Okay, I think I have that covered well. And I'm not very particular, especially down here, because my pumpkins are going to be down there. If I want that to blend a little more, I'll just rub my paintbrush across it. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to transfer our pattern. Now here is a dry surface. This one is in a different color. I think this one was mushroom with white, and it came out a little bit darker. I think it has a little bit more green in it, but that's just to show you that this doesn't really matter. You can have a background that you like. My original, let me compare it, and I'll show you. See how much lighter this one is? So you can go with what you like. A neutral color is great. It doesn't have to be perfect. So you pick the color you want. I like kind of the more subdued or darker one in this sign. Since I already did a lighter one, I'm ready for a darker one. Let's get our pattern transferred. I have an entire post and video on transferring pattern. So I'm going to get, this is the pattern that I have for download. And this is the pattern you can get. And you see how I lined up the register marks here? Now it doesn't meet, the paper edges don't. You want to meet the lines, match the lines, and that will get you where you need to be for your pattern. You see how the pumpkin now lined up? And so that's the pumpkin part, and then here's the lettering, which you would copy part of the lettering here, move it, and then copy it up there. And that is, so you don't have to copy too many pages to get the pattern. So I'm going to line this up on the side, line this up. I will tape it together and down. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. Now it goes a little bit over the edge, so this one can move a little bit this way. And if you want the bottoms to be, because this was kind of the bottom of my other sign, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You can have it a little ways up and then finish the pumpkins down on the bottom, which would be very simple to do. So I will go ahead and copy this on here, transfer it on here, because this is kind of a darker surface. I might use a light or a white graphite paper. Or I might go ahead and just use the black. So I'm going to transfer the pattern, and then we're going to proceed to paint. So here's the pattern transferred on. I did use the white transfer paper, graphite paper. And now we're ready to get painting. I am going to start with the back pumpkin first. So I did that one. The undercoat, I'm going to do 2 coats on each of these pumpkins. The undercoat I did in pure orange. And I'm going to use a number 12 flat brush. Now you notice this brush is peeling. I need to fix that. So all I do is I take some tape. Now this isn't peeling because the brush was faulty. This is peeling because I accidentally left it sitting in water, and that's a big no-no. So I just take some painter's tape. This is frog tape, and I just wrap it, and I'm going to kind of wrap it down as I go and just smooth it, push down. See, more is breaking off, and that way I don't have to throw away my brush. I guess I could try to wrap it sideways that way instead of straight. Wrap it around and wrap all the peeling paint, and good to go. That way it won't chip off. If I would have left it peeling, it would have chipped off into my pattern or into my painting, and I don't want that. So I'm dampening my brush in my caddy. I press it against paper towel, and I load it. Now I'm not double loading right now because this is the undercoat, and I'm just going to follow the outline of my back pumpkin, and you see I'm stroking in the direction of the ribs of the pumpkin. So I'm just going to fill in. Now if you're following the pattern specifically, you may want to keep your pattern hinged, taped on there and hinged, and that way you can lift it up, put it down, and then you can draw in the pattern lines again. I just usually wing it, so I don't worry about following the pattern exactly. But if you need to, that's fine. Go right ahead. I know how it can make it easier if you're following along on a pattern rather than just painting. Now you see this pumpkin and this pumpkin overlap that pumpkin, so I'm not going to paint orange here, but it does come back down here. Now I'm missing a line right there that I missed, but that's okay. I kind of know where it's at. Where this pumpkin, see this pumpkin line comes down. And that color will overlap the part of the orange that I don't want to show. The orange, or it's going to be the coral. So this upper rib here comes right along here. And then there's the stem right there. So there's the stem. I could even go over that, but I'm going to leave it because I know a lot of people would need the pattern. So you see how I kind of followed the lines the ribs would go with my strokes. I overlap that pumpkin just a little bit. Doesn't matter. That color is going to cover over it and straighten it all out. So I'm going to let the orange dry. And while the orange dries, I can be doing some other things. Like, let me rinse out the orange of my brush. Make sure it's all out. How I make sure it's clean, as you see, there's just a tiny bit of orange showing on my paper towel when I dry it. So I'll continue to wash it, wipe it on there. You see there's no orange showing, so that means it's clean. You do not want to leave paint, especially acrylic, in your brushes. Now we're going to do the cotton bolls, because